Hi guys, this is Donna with Love Rocks, and we're back with one last project for Valentine's Day. This is a very simple project, but there's a lot to learn with this. So please stay with us and we'll go through it step by step. Please, if you have not already subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to our channel. And of course, in order to be in the drawing to win this rock, you have to subscribe and comment in order to be in the drawing. We will draw for this rock probably in a couple of days. I'll make sure and post it so you know how long it is, but usually it's about 48 hours to 72 hours. Okay, let's get started. So this is a cartoon turtle that I pulled off of a cartoon or off of a coloring book. But what I really wanted to do was show you how much you can put into a very simple picture and make it look really nice. Most of us are at a point in our painting that either we're just beginning or we're, intermediate type painters. If you are an artist, this video probably isn't for you unless you want to watch it for entertainment. For the rest of us, we need to learn something every time we look at a video, and that's what I'm hoping you get from this, is if you can just pick up one or two little hints that make it a little easier for you and maybe make you understand just a little bit about what you're doing when you're painting. Shading is so important. It gives you the illusion of something popping off of a surface that is flat. And so when you get an object that you do a really good job on shading, you will see it come alive on that rock for you. And so that's the kinds of things that I want to teach. Any little tricks that I might know, because I am by far not the expert on all of this, but the little tricks that I know, I want to be able to teach that, and I want other people to be able to enjoy what they're doing by, some simple little things that you can do to make your pictures look just a little bit better. So I picked this turtle because, first of all, he's very easy to sketch in. And second of all, he has got so much curvature to him that he is an amazing thing to try to shade and to play with your colors. So when I start, I always start at the top. I don't know why. It's just what I do. You can start wherever you want. So I started with the eyes, and I get the basic color in. Then I went to the face, and I got the green in. But then I start laying in the lighter colors. So the opposite of shading is highlighting. If your base color is going to be such as this, for instance, a green, then go ahead and put it all in, and then go back and hit your highlights, and your green will stay the darker colors on the areas that you don't highlight. I hope that makes sense. I wanted to not have to use too much black for my shading. I do use a little bit, but I didn't want to use a lot. I wanted to keep my project green. I really wanted to stay in that green scheme. So I do add a little tiny bit of black in order to give him some shade around the edges and under the eyes. But I didn't use a lot of it. I tried to keep that deep green that I was using for most of the shading. And then I came in and brought the lighter color for the highlight. As I'm looking at the eyes, I put in some gray, and I put in the shading on it as well. If you follow me very much, you'll notice that I really slap my paints onto my rocks, and then I go back and really work the paint. These rocks are, I bought these, I can tell you where I got them. I got them at Lowe's in the garden section. I bought a bag of them. I think you get like 20, 25 pounds for, I don't know, under 20 bucks. And they're all this color, this lighter color. Some are a little more white than others, but they're this light color. They're all river rock, so they're all soft and smooth and, for the most part, round, flat, easily paintable. And they come in different sizes. I would say what we would consider, or what I would consider, the perfect rock, which is about a 3x3 flat surface, smooth, round rock. You probably get about maybe 10 to 15 of those in a bag. The rest of them are different sizes, shapes, things like that. So anyways, with these rocks, they really absorb the paint. So I'm very liberal with my paint when I start off. And I really get that, whatever your base color is going to be, I really slap that paint on, let it dry, put on a second layer, and then I start to work my paint. I start to do my blending. If you try to blend right off the bat, without having a lot of paint underneath, it's really hard. You wind up pulling the paint away from certain areas and onto other areas. It gets thin in places, and then you wind up with a light color underneath it because of the white rock. You just run into some difficulties. So my, I guess, strategy to that, and you can use whatever strategy you want, but mine is I put that base color in there, and then I'll go back and I'll work the paint. I've tried to work it without having that base in there. And let me give you a little tip. If you can allow it to dry before you go back in to work it, you really have a better chance of getting that really good, smooth, really pretty blend that you're looking for. I have been painting along and not paying attention, and I'll be doing different things, and then I'll go back to a spot on here on one of my rocks, and I'll start trying to blend, not even realizing, because I'm in my own little world when I'm painting, not even realizing that the paint was still too wet to be working. And all of a sudden I'll realize, oh my gosh, I'm pulling paint up. And so what happens is, if you don't let that first layer dry, it starts to pull off of the rock, and then you can see through it, and then you're trying to fill that back in so that it's all the same color so that you can go in and blend. It starts to make a big mess. It's a domino effect. So for me, I have to be pretty, I guess you could say, I have to pay attention and not get in my own little world when I'm painting, which is hard to do because I just love to just go with it. And just make sure that I'm letting certain areas dry before I move on to other areas. So on his face, for the most part, you want to shade around the edges. That gives you the illusion that it's going back around his head, and you want to shade under his chin. That's where he's going underneath. And then, of course, those big googly eyes are going to cast a shadow. So I shade a little bit more under his eyes than I would normally, just because I know that there's going to be that shadow there. On the eyes, I made sure and shadowed along the bottom and along both sides, because you do have a little bit of that creeping back because those are round eyes. Now, as you get up towards the top, you don't want to shade, but you do have to show a distinction between the white eye and the white background. And that's where I come in with the black and I outline. No matter how good I get at outlining, I still cannot get that hair fine line. So, I've kind of quit killing myself to try to get that. And instead what I do is I get the thinnest line that I can get. I let it dry, and then I go back with whatever color it is on the inside. And I take that color and go around the edges. And that gives me I'm left with just a very thin line of the black. This seems to work better for me, I think. You do whatever you need. I had somebody ask me what kind of paint I was using, a brush that was loaded with paint, and I don't have a brush loaded with paint, and I don't use pens. This is all freehand. I use a lining brush. As a matter of fact, the other day I was playing with my lining brush and I felt like it was still a little bit thick, so I cut some more bristles off. So the best way to make your lining brush is find you a brush that's got bristles about, an inch longer if you can find one that you like. If you get them too long, they're kind of hard to control the end of that when it gets paint on it. It gets a little heavy and floppy, so it's a little bit difficult. So play with it and see what feels good to you. And anyways, make sure it's round, not one that is, the bristles are held onto the wooden handle with a flat, squished piece of metal, but an actual round piece of metal. It makes a difference. Then go in and I cut from every side. I cut a little bit all the way around, all the way around, all the way around. And I just keep doing it, and you do it slow. And you just cut a little bit and then try it. Cut a little, try it until you get that brush where you want it. Here is a really, really good example of not getting super expensive brushes, because if you make a mistake and you accidentally cut too much, you don't want to have a $100 brush that you're cutting. So, I really advocate for the less expensive stuff, unless you are an artist and you are doing artwork on a level of selling those pieces, and you need that really expensive equipment. I would personally stay with the less expensive equipment, especially for rocks. It's a rough surface. There is not a rock out there that's not going to be a rough surface. Now, you can glaze your rocks before you paint them if you wanted to, but you're still going to have a rough surface. It eats those little bristles up. You're going to go through brushes. Okay, that's my spiel on doing the lining brush. Back to shading. So as I put in my colors, I always put in my darks and then put in my lights, and I kind of let that stuff sit, and I kind of make a circle around my picture in a way of, I'll play with the eyes for a little bit, then I'll play with the face for a little bit, then I'll play with the back of the turtle for a little bit. Now I'm doing his belly, I do an arm, I'll do a leg, and then I'll circle back around and I'll start playing with the eyes again. It looks erratic, but there really is a reason behind it, and that is I'm allowing some of that paint to dry before I play with it some more. And there are times when you want that stuff to dry, and there's times when you don't. If you're doing a lot of blending and you're really trying to get something to blend, you don't want it to dry out. You need to have that ability to blend it back and forth between the light and the dark, to the point that it's that really beautiful, perfect blend of going from light to dark. If you are having trouble, every single solitary thing that I've ever done, there'll be one spot that I can't get to work the way I want it to work. If you're having trouble, let it dry. Just walk away from it. Let it dry. Go to another part of the rock and work on it. Because what's going to happen is you're going to continue to wet that spot and add more paint, and wet that spot and add more paint. And if you work it too much, again, you're going to get that phenomena of pulling all of your paint coming from the bottom, coming up, and now you're going to have a big hole. So it's just a combination of knowing when to count your losses, let it dry, and start again. If you let it dry, you can at least go in and put the paint on and a new paint on, and you can start that blending process again. I will tell you, I have painted a rock, thought it was great, finished it, sprayed my sealer on it a couple of times, walked away from it. A couple of days later, I'll walk by my desk and see it and go, that's what's wrong with it. I have literally done this, and I will stop in the middle of whatever I'm doing. I could be heading out the door to the post office. I could be heading out the door to the grocery store. And if I see something, I will stop. I will flip open a couple of things of paint. I will fix what it is that I just saw. I will set my rock down and let it dry, rinse my brush, lay everything down on my desk, and walk out the door and go finish up whatever I was doing. So it's okay to put the paint back on it if you have already sprayed it with your sealer. Know that. There are some people that, depending on the rock that you're using, that'll seal the rocks first and then do it. If you've got a rock that's really, really, really got a lot of indentions and crevices and stuff, you can seal it and then paint on top of that. I tend to not do that. I just because I really feel like, I haven't had it happen, but I feel like there could be some slippage of my paints if I do that. But I'm reassured on several videos that I've watched of other people that are highly regarded as to knowing what they're doing, have said that you can do that and it won't actually slip. So just something to keep in mind. You never have to stop looking at your rocks and painting, fixing them if you want to. Okay, so we shaded all the areas. We shaded we painted his little heart. And the next thing is going to be going back and putting in the lines and checking out the areas that we've already shaded to make sure that we don't need more shading or more highlights. I guess you could over shade and over highlight. I tend to feel like I will play with it until I feel that it's perfect. I just do. Did you see what I just did right there? That was kind of weird, but I took a pencil and I needed to make sure that one piece of my heart was matching where the other piece was. So I just took a pencil and sketched it across there. And so I would know that I had gotten it just right across there. That's all I did with that. So anyways, I really like the amount of shading that can be done on this. I really enjoyed the transitions of color that you can use for doing the shading and the highlights. And it was fun. It's just a fun thing to do. You can use different colors, or you can use one color and I get lazy sometimes and I use black and white. I'll add a little white for my to lighten it for my highlights, and I'll add a little black to do my shading. Sometimes I will, mix up the colors a little bit and have a color that's going from one color to another. But I'll be honest with you, most of the time, I just use my blacks and my whites. If I was an artist, that's really not the way you're supposed to do it. You should be working with a color palette, and you should be using your primaries to pull those deeper hues coming in. But I'm not going to do that. That's not the direction I'm going. A little background on me. My grandmother was an artist. She sold paintings all over Arizona. She did so much artwork, and growing up, I loved art, and so she would take me with her. And as soon as I was able, she started paying for art classes. Then my parents started paying for art classes. And I went all over the state taking art classes as a teenager with all these adults. Some of the people I took art classes from were amazing artists. And so I did that all the way through grade school and part of high school. I did a little bit of artwork. I sold some sketches when I got out of high school. Then I started having children, and then I went into college, and life just got too busy, and I quit. I just stopped. And to me, I was always doing the artwork that my family thought that I should do. This artwork on rocks and being able to do fun things is truly a labor of love. It is what I enjoy. And so for the first time, my artwork is actually absolutely the most relaxing thing that I do. And so, figure out what it is that your goal is. Is your goal to become good enough that you can sell and make a living at doing art on these rocks? Is it something that you want to give to other people? Is it something that you just want to do for fun on the weekends? Is it something you want to do with somebody else? Everybody has a goal. So figure out what it is, and that's where you're going to push yourself towards. For me, I love to do these rocks and hide them. It's my favorite part of all of this. But I have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of art classes that my family sacrificed and paid for, that I do have a little bit of knowledge, and I would love to be able to share that. By no means am I a professional. By no means am I a professional or ever will be. But the little bit of stuff that I do know, and some of the teeny weeny little bit of talent that I was blessed with that came down through my family, I would love to share that. And that's why I do this, because it is so fun to give somebody the opportunity to do the same thing, but they didn't know how to do certain things. They didn't know how to shade. They didn't understand that that's what it was. They're just picking this up because it looked fun. I want to be able to throw anything out there that I might be able to help with so that it doesn't become frustrating. I talk to a lot of beginner painters, and I always tell them the same thing. Here's my email, or you can PM me on my Facebook anytime. If you have questions about anything, I can't find the right brush, I can't find this, I can't find that, I'm not sure where to start. Those are all questions I hear all the time. So please, have fun, get out there, paint some rocks, hide them for other people, and just enjoy this process. See you guys next week.